Hi, this is Carlo Hein from Ramborn Cider Co in Luxembourg, Europe, and you are listening to Cider Chat.
Episode 129. Hello and welcome to Cider Chat. My name is Aria Wincaller, and I am the producer and cider MC of this weekly podcast, where we speak with makers, enthusiasts, and folks within the cider trade from around the world. And this week, we are having a cider dinner with Carlo Hein of Ramborn Cider Company. You're going to find out a little bit more about that name and its relationship to an apple and how that apple has a relationship to a movie. I hope you're intrigued because it certainly knocked my socks off. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment with that chat. But first, a bit of news out and about in Ciderville. Last week, I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And next week's episode, I'm going to be talking all about that. So hang on to your hats. I'll be covering Grand Rapids, Michigan, the trip out there, the cider tour, the people I met, what it was like to be part of GlenCap in that episode. And I'm going to be featuring a conversation with Mike Beck of Uncle John's Hard Cider. And we're going to be talking about Pommeau. So a little bit of GlenCap, a little bit about Pommeau, and kind of highlighting that experience. In the meanwhile, I just want to say congratulations to everybody who was able to get their entries in to Michigan for the competition. And congratulations if you received a medal for that at some level. I know how difficult that could be to just get it pulled out of your cider batch and send off your coveted cider to that event. It's a big deal for folks. So if you participated, if you won a medal, a big tip of the glass to you. So on that same note of a big tip of the glass, I had spoken at the same time about another competition that took place on May 16th, and that was in Hereford in the UK, and that was the International Cider and Perry Competition for 2018. And there were definitely some interesting components to that. One is that there were 4 judges for, let me see, how many entries? They had 44 cider makers throughout England, Wales, Germany, and the USA. And they had but it says 207 entries. The judges were Liz Copas, Sally Perks, Nick Bradstock, and Susanna Forbes. And if that name Susanna Forbes is familiar to you, that's because she and James Forbes of Little Pomona Cider in Herefordshire were on this podcast. And that was episode 126. So you might want to listen to that. And from the looks of that, and not knowing personally those other judges, but to see 3 women judges and 1 guy, I have to say that, that must have been amazing that they did 270 entries. These people have to be good at what they're doing to be able to get through that. That's a big accomplishment. I'm going to just kind of give a big tip of the glass there to the overall champion, which was Hen Hope Cider in Upper Dormington in Herefordshire. And that was for a single varietal cider, or they say single variety cider. That is really neat, right? A single variety cider won the overall championship. A couple interesting things about this particular competition that I think would be of note to all of us who are totally geeking out. One is that there is a couple different classifications that we don't normally see. So they have the classic dry, medium, or sweet cider. They have Perry dry or medium and Perry sweet. Then they have that single variety cider. Then it's culinary dry or medium and sweet. Then they have it in bottle fermented cider or Perry. And this is the one I like, which was Class 2, which was the best presented packaged cider or Perry. So I'm kind of guessing here, probably do a follow-up on this, but is that the way the packaging looks in terms of the label and the bottle presentation. I would think so. So that's rather interesting. We're not seeing anything in terms of fruit cider or ice cider. Maybe that's the special cider or perry category. I do not know. Big tip of the glass to everybody there. I'm seeing that Ross on Y won a medal, so congratulations for that. That was for the perry. And I am just so hankering to get to the UK and hang out with all these people and drink their cider and perry. Planning on doing that next spring for a Totally Cider tour to Herefordshire and Somerset. Stay tuned for that. Start marking that now. We're looking at being there in apple blossom season. So get that set now. Plenty of time to plan. The Ontario Cider Week begins June 1st and runs through June 8th. Ontario is sandwiched between Quebec, which is the French-speaking territory there, and Manitoba. Two large cities in Ontario is Ottawa, which is actually the location for the capital of all of Canada, and then the city of Toronto. I'm going to be driving up there next week. I'll be leaving the U.S. on May 31st, which is our Memorial Day, and making my way up through Buffalo, New York, going over the border there, and definitely seeing Niagara Falls and Niagara on the Lake. This region of Canada is considered the Napa Valley of the country. I'm not sure what makers in other parts of Canada feel about that, but that is what I've heard, and I am bound and determined to discover that. Mainly, I just want to say I'm super stoked to be going to Canada. This trip is being sponsored by Ryan Monkman of Fieldbird Cider in Wellington in Prince Edward County, not to be confused with Prince Edward Island. So next week, I am going to be chatting with Ryan. We're going to be visiting this itinerary of cideries and getting to know Ontario at a level that I've never had the chance to do. So do stay tuned to social media. I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff, and we'll probably have at least one Cider Chat Live podcast going live during that week. And again, I am really happy to be going to Canada. Yeah, it's going to be good, right? Whee! All right, when we come back, we're going to be heading to this main conversation this week with Carlo Hein of Ramborn Cider Company. So make sure to start filling that glass now. Get focused. I know you, Benjamin. You're up there at Beaver Valley Cider in Ontario. Yeah, I'm talking to you and Ashley to get that cup filled and get ready to go, because we're going to be taking a trip into the beautiful territory of Luxembourg. This chat was pre-recorded in Baltimore at CiderCon, which is the annual conference and trade show put on by the United States Association of Cider Makers. This conversation took place in the evening over dinner, so it's called a cider dinner and conversation with Carlo Hein of Ramborn Cider Company. Carlo is from Luxembourg, and it was just a perfect opportunity for me to be able to sit down and delve into the history of this amazing cidery. In fact, the only cidery in the country of Luxembourg. Now, I want to encourage you, the listener, to hang with it, because at first, when you're listening to somebody who is a non-native speaker of English, it could be a little hard to kind of wrap yourself around the words. So I'll be kind of helping with that. But more importantly, it will allow you to get to know Carlo. This is a guy who's been around the town. He knows what he's saying, and it's worth savoring every word that he is speaking. This is a company, a cider company, that is really staying on the pulse of both the marketing and not just their one territory, but the world market. And you're going to be perhaps pretty surprised on some of the key figures from the cider world that they have brought in to help them craft the perfect product. So without further ado, let's all grab a glass now and head to this chat with Carlo Hein of Ramborn Cider Company in Luxembourg.
You will discover the story. We renovated an old farm from 1783.
At that time in Luxembourg, Austria ruled.
And they took the architecture to Luxembourg. Then they started to build farms like they did build in Austria. And that it was in the time where the Marie-Thérèse, it was the empire, Marie-Thérèse, which ruled in Luxembourg, and that's why the style of the farms is called Marie-Thérèse style. So you have the master house, and you have barns, and they are forming a rectangle. So in the middle,
rectangle, not a circle, but a rectangle.
Exactly. So in the middle you have a square.
Okay.
And sometimes there are additional houses, and in this case there was a distillery and a cidery behind the master house.
A distillery and a cidery.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Original.
So we took the barns and we transformed the barns into the cidery because we needed more place than in the old place because it was a small place. And the old distillery and cidery we transformed into a cinema. So when people are coming there, they show this film in this old building.
Okay. What a beautiful presentation for guests.
We wanted really that people discover the whole story. The tour is 1.5 hours, so they start to have an explanation about the history of the village, the history of the farm. Then they go to the distillery, looking at the film, going to the cellars, these old cellars, wine cellars.
I've seen the photos of your cellars, and I salivate looking at them. I mean,
the barrels which are lying there, it's rum, whiskey, and bourbon.
Whiskey, and bourbon. Okay.
And the cider lies there now for 9 months, and I have tasted 1 week ago, and it tastes like Sauvignon Blanc, and it's full-bodied. It's unbelievable.
Wow!
And the alcohol has gone up to 10.5%. So there was so much left in the barrels.
In the barrels. So are these barrels that you brought in these barrels?
So what in Germany there's a place where you can go and they have thousands of barrels. And you can go there, smell the barrels and say, okay, I pick these barrels, and we took some from there.
So they're tasting like Sauvignon Blanc, which is a white wine.
Yes, you will have the notes of the rum, of the whiskey and the bourbon in it, but this cider has so much power that he can stand up against the other flavors.
Wow.
So it's really a well-balanced liquid which will come out there.
I would think that a bourbon barrel with cider would really lend itself in. So something's going on. There must be the apples that you're using and
so
quite a bit more.
We are coming from a region. So in Luxembourg we have wineries to the south on the Moselle River. The Moselle goes then to Germany and then to the Rhine. So along the whole Moselle is wine. And the river where we are growing the apples, it's more to the north, and that's apple region. So we are where wine stops and apple starts. We are just behind that border. And
now Luxembourg is a very
small place.
It's a long country.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. It's like I'm going to put it in miles.
No, in miles it's only 50 to 60 miles, around 100 kilometers.
Okay, and across
60,
east to west?
60 kilometers.
Kind of cut that in half, it's like over 30 miles across.
So a mile is 1 mile is 1.5 kilometers, something like that. So you have to scale it up.
A little bit, yeah. I just cut it in half and then add a little bit on, it's like cooking a little bit of this and that, but it's very long and a very interesting region that I think is unique, and there's history, cider history, if it was being made there.
So I show you the film, and the history we will go back 2,000 years back. With
2,000 years. Now we're talking
documents. With documents.
Of cider making?
Yes.
Now that is a hello, because that's a hello moment.
Yes, I know.
Because we're thinking about Spain, where they're looking at 2,000 years back. So you are in tandem, history-wise.
You will see in the film that the capital of the Romans, of the Roman Empire, 2,000 years ago, was 20 kilometers from our village in Germany. And Trier is the oldest capital in Germany. And the Romans were there, and they took the wine and the cider there. But we know that the Celts, which were living before the Romans there, they did already with crab apples also cider, but we have no written proofs on that one.
They were doing it with crab apples,
but
okay.
From the Romans,
before
we have
pre-Romans.
documents, and we have the writers and the names.
Do you have documents at
you will see the documents.
You have the document. Oh my goodness, this story is just... at that same moment where I was like, hello, are you kidding me? Pliny the Elder and proof that cider was being made 2,000 years ago? Well, we had to order food because it was a cider dinner after all, and that's part of the beauty of podcasting. So hang tight and we'll move through it and continue on with this amazing history of Ramborn Cider Company with Carlo Hein.
The second row, right off, gotcha.
And I'm going to do the Maryland crab cakes.
Sure.
Because I'm in Maryland. I'd like to see how cider goes in Maryland.
Right? I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you.
A small introduction to the cider. So this one is original. It's the first cider we made. And the name of our company comes also from this cider. So we have in Luxembourg an apple called Rambo. And the village I'm from and where the cider is born. So we combine both of them and it's Ramborn. And it sounds great. So
yes, it does. It sounds strong.
Yes.
It's a strong name. It's a prideful name. I love that.
Trees. It's a heritage we have.
Yeah.
So funny part of it, I was then checking Rambo, and Wikipedia told me that the author of the book First Blood was sitting in his kitchen, and he didn't find a name for the main person in the film. So his wife came from the apple market, and she said, let's look at the apple names. And they found Rambo.
Are you kidding me?
But I only found out afterwards.
Oh my goodness. It's all meant to be.
Yes.
In so many ways. There's serendipity happening all over the place.
Yes.
It's just part of the magic of apples. And
so the Rambo apple comes from France or Sweden. So it's called the Rambo with E-A-U, it's French spelling.
Rambo.
And when it came then to Luxembourg, they transformed it into Rambo. And we have two kinds of Rambo. We have the Eifler Rambo, that's the mountains near to us in Germany. Mm-hmm. And we have the Winter Rambo, so it's really an apple which you can keep all over the winter so that it's still in April, it's fine.
Perfect, yeah.
So very old variety of apple. And a massive apple.
And a massive apple.
So it's really good on acidity and on quantity of juice it produces, but we are blending it with a lot of other apples which give tannins and other acidities into it. So in this side is around 20 different varieties of apples, only old varieties from old standard trees which are between 60 and 80 years old.
And I imagine about 40 feet high? Maybe bigger, I don't know.
Can I put it in meters?
Well, we're in a pretty tall room right now.
Like up there.
Like up there. So we're in actually I'm going to say it's about a 14-foot ceiling.
Yes.
So, that's a very reasonable height.
And it can be much more. So it can be up to 20, definitely. And our pear trees, it's double.
Those pear trees, they go vertical.
Massive.
Yeah, they love going
out. We found pear trees which are 350 years old in Luxembourg.
Oh my goodness.
And the average pear tree we are using is over 100 years old.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I have no pear with me because it's fantastic.
I have had your pear.
Good.
I have had your pear.
Good.
Or perry, I want to say, and it's delicious.
Yes.
It is
It comes from the
amazing.
fruit.
Yeah, it does.
Our job is to do the best out of the food because the food is there. Mm-hmm. So If it's not good, it's not the food's fault.
Now, where did you learn your cider making techniques?
So I was on a mission with friends to Scotland. When we were
on a mission.
On a mission, we wanted to
you were just traveling.
Yeah, traveling.
Okay, you call it like a mission, like you're going, like the search of the Holy Grail or something like that.
Yeah,
okay.
that could be.
All right.
So we were sitting at 11 o'clock in the morning there, and we decided to have a cider. I always loved cider, and my family stopped making cider in the 60s. But in my neighborhood, in the village, 7 farmers did cider until the 70s. Today there is one left making cider, but only for his personal things. So I was surrounded by farmers which were making cider. So as a kid, of course, you went to the cellar and you had a sip. And I think it's a bit like with Obelix, I really fell in love with this drink very early.
Wow.
And I stayed with cider. But
not wine. You always said that.
Wine is fine, beer is fine, but I love cider. Wow. That's the difference.
Is that typical in your region?
No.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, because
it's not typical.
Serendipity again. Wow.
If you would go to Trier, 20 kilometers from Bonn, in Germany,
yes,
there you have still the old cider lovers, which is very dry cider.
Really dry cider.
This apple wine culture in Germany is 20 kilometers away from us.
I thought it was kind of a sweet wine, or apple wine, but no, dry. Okay. Yeah.
So when we were discussing there and we drank this cider, it was not pleasant to me, and we had discussions about our own apple trees. My friend owns big orchards of them, and we did nothing with these apples. They were falling down and rotting in the fields. And I said, let's try something. And so we came back, and I was Googling again, and I found Peter Mitchel's Cider Academy.
Oh, okay.
And I went over to Peter Mitchel, but I asked him first, because I'm going quickly to the goal, I asked him, could I send you 2,000 kilos of apples and can we make a cider together? And he said, well, we can discuss this, but first you come to my course.
Oh.
And if then you still want to do cider, we can discuss it.
Well, that was probably the right answer,
definitely,
right?
It was definitely the right.
Yeah, that was a wise move. Yeah, wise.
And afterwards,
wisdom.
we stayed in contact, and we did exactly like that. So the first 2,000 kilos went to him. And I went over there, and we made the measurement of acidities. He made a lot work beforehand, and the fermentation was going on. And he called us, "Maturation is finished now, guys. You can come, and you can do the blending and the bottling with us." So myself and 2 of my friends, we flew over to the UK and did everything with him together. And so we had our 2,000 bottles of cider, and we took them to Luxembourg, and we shared it with friends. But after 2-3 weeks, we said, no, any more sharing, because everybody loved it.
You're in an area where you do have access to amazing cider makers, and of course, Peter Mitchel, for folks who are listening, is a Brit. He's based in the UK, but he also does courses in the Pacific Northwest. I don't think he does anything in the East Coast of the US, but he is a touchstone for many people starting off. So when you took that course, was there something that really stuck out to you that you said, I didn't know this about cider making, or that maybe overwhelmed you about cider making, anything, or just energized you to make?
So I have other jobs. So I'm in renovation of old buildings.
Perfect.
I'm in wind power and solar power.
Fantastic.
And in sustainable building of buildings.
Wow, yeah.
And the old orchards, which were dying away with this biodiversity, was really something I was seeing with my friends, and we said, we need to save these orchards. And so the strong will came because of the orchards. We said, we want to do something with these apples. And we love cider. So that's a good combination of both.
Yeah, you don't need
and that was
That's it.
That is when you stand up in the morning and you say, yes, sometimes it's tough, but then you're looking out and you see the old trees are renovated and there are new ones planted.
Yeah.
And you say, well, it will take 30 to 40 years before these trees are really big and nice, but somebody before me did that for me. I'm returning now for the next generation. And with pear trees, it's 2 generations before you really profit from it. But we are planting them too. So it's our mission to that. And we have a lot of help in Luxembourg, from the Minister of Environment, we have from the communities. Everybody supports us really in what we are doing.
This is exciting because I think that it's a very unique position to be in, to be your country's cidery.
Yes.
And there's a lot of pride, and it's a very diverse population, isn't it?
Yes, we have.
It's very international.
So 50% of people living in Luxembourg are not Luxembourgish. The biggest community are Portuguese. And then only come the Germans, the French, and the Belgians.
German, French, Belgians.
But the Portuguese are the ones which came in the 70s, 80s to help us in construction.
Wow.
And so it's very, and we have the European Union Court of Justice and the European Investment Bank in Luxembourg. So all the communities from all over Europe are there too.
Right there, wow. Yeah.
Which helps us in the cider business because we have the British, the Irish, the Scandinavian, which are also in Luxembourg. And that's a nice community for selling cider.
Yeah. Knowledgeable people. Fantastic.
So let's try.
Yes.
First sip from this one.
Please.
So the aim of this cider, the first one was to produce a cider which is pleasant to the public. Drink also a second bottle.
Oh, second bottle. Yes, perfect. Cheers.
Cheers.
What would you say in Luxembourgish?
Santé.
Santé.
Or Prost. So as
Prost.
we are, the 2 languages, German and French, are in Luxembourg. You have both of them.
All right, well, santé.
Santé.
The aftertaste is almost like a honey.
Yes.
No, it's not floral. It's just really smooth, silky. It's
Creamy, yes.
Creamy, yeah. Really nice mouth. The bubbles. You're doing like a forced carbonation,
Yes.
right? Are you doing a little bit of back sweetening?
Yes.
Yeah, just so we bit to bring that up.
Because we have nice acidities in our apple, and you have to have the right balance between sweetness and acidity. But we took it only to the absolute necessary level because it needs to be balanced.
Yeah, and there's some nice tannins there too.
Yes,
you know?
that's the apples which are blending into it, which gives that.
Delightful. And this bottle here is called Original. This is what we're drinking right now.
Yes, it's our flagship in the company. We have that also in kegs, so for draft.
On draft, okay,
yes. And that's.
So is that how people would be drinking this? They'd either be doing the bottles. You don't have any 750 milliliter bottles, no?
We had 500 milliliter. We still have, but we see that 330 ml or the 12 ounce.
A 12-ounce bottle.
Bottle is working really best. And
really good for travelers.
Yes, and we will have cans this year.
And you'll have cans.
Also 12-ounce cans will come.
Such a modern, kind of almost like an American. I don't know. Is that happening?
What they said today in one of the sessions, they said it's not the big ones which will win; it's the fast one which will win.
Fast one,
yes.
The fast cidery.
The fast cidery adapt quickly,
yeah.
And to see the trends, and that's fascinating here to be here in Baltimore.
Yeah.
To get this knowledge and to redefine your strategies and
well, when you're the only cidery in the country, you could call the shots. If you want to do that, this is your trend. You're not beholden to the English or the French.
We are traveling a lot to London. We are traveling a lot around,
right,
and looking at the different markets and just studying and learning.
Wow. In cans. So are those going to be 16-ounce cans? Or 12-ounce cans?
So typical.
Sold in how many cans?
4 packs.
A 4-pack.
The first label we did on the 2000 bottle, it was for friends. So the graphic guy, he put a logo, an old truck on it. And one of my friends called me on a Saturday morning and said, I found your truck in France. and it stands in a barn in the Massif Central, and it's a Citroën from 1928.
A Citroën.
And
wow.
And the green color.
I didn't know they made trucks.
Yes, they did.
Wow. Okay.
And the green color, I liked it a lot because it's apple. It's a little bit British green, and as we are doing a local product with British knowledge. We decided to adapt that and to take this color also as one of the company's colors.
I see. Okay, that makes sense to me.
The truck today stand is in the company. It's there when people are going around, and it drives. And you will see it in the film.
Did you have to do much repair to it, or in that old barn? Yes.
Yes, we
have. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
We
okay.
had to.
All right. Yeah. Lovely. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, wow, it feels very agricultural, very country to me, and it was a unique looking vehicle.
And it's really fun when you're going to your customers or you're going into Luxembourg town or in other towns.
You actually drive that around?
Yes.
Are you kidding? Wow.
And when you have an event and the truck is there, people stop, big photos, have discussion, put their kids in the
good branding,
in the truck.
Very
it's
good
really
branding.
Good.
Yeah. Well, it's a delightful cider.
Thanks.
Yeah, really, really nice. And as it kind of sits here a little bit, it has a nice bouquet. It really comes up, and we're not in any kind of like fluted glass or anything. It's pretty wide mouth, almost like a cidre glass in a way.
Yeah.
That little bit of, carbonation just opens it up.
So on carbonation, what we are doing, we are working together with winemakers from Luxembourg. So as I told you, in the south of Luxembourg, we have winemakers. And I like to work in teams. I like to put Peter Mitchel together with the winemakers, together with my team. And we have 8-9 people together in a room, and we are discussing what we are doing. And then we are taking our decision. And there's a lot of expertise coming from these winemakers. And there again, Luxembourg is special because once we have the German winemakers, it's on the other side of the river. So they have studied in Germany their winemaking, whereas we have also French winemakers in the same winery. They studied in France. So you have already there 2 different schools coming together.
Yeah, collaboration.
Then you have Peter Mitchel on the table, which gives his knowledge to the processes. And there are discussions coming up.
Yes.
Because wine is not like cider. But the good part of it is that the German winemakers all did cider at home. So they have no fear about working on that product. They love it. And that's perfect team when you have people who just enjoy to discover new things and to learn.
Right, and you could taste that in the cider. You could taste it all the way through. It's a lot of love, a lot of passion, a lot of joy.
When I turn up to them and we have these discussions, it's always with a big smile. What happens? How is fermentation is going?
Right.
Let's taste it. Shall we do something?
Right.
That's great.
Yeah. And the percent, the ABV on this?
It's 5.8.
5.8, which isn't a little bit lower. I would kind of consider kind of sessionable, but that's low enough that it's not going to throw you in a tizzy at all.
We have 8 different ciders. So our philosophy is that we have 4 ciders, which is really the one which also are in retail. It's from this one that we have a very interesting one, which is a blend of Luxembourgish and English apples. We just wanted to try to combine the Luxembourgish acidities with the tannin-rich apples from England. Then it's not typical, but as a cider maker, you love to try things. And
that's the excitement of it.
Yes. Then we have our farmhouse, which is a very dry cider. And finally our perry. That's our main ciders, which are in the retail. And the hop cider will join now this family. But we have cellar additions. That's additional ciders. And that's small batches we are doing for making innovation in the company. And if one of these products are hitting well with the customers, like our hop cider, he was first a cellar edition. But always when customers came to the farm, there was a hole in the shelf. They took the hop cider. How we experiment, how we make innovation, and we test it then with the customers coming to the farm. And we see what they are buying.
And they're going for the hop cider because that really, I think, started in the U.S. adding hops to cider. And I shouldn't say that, just also in the U.K. because Tom Oliver was doing it there. Now I've had a hop cider in Normandy, where a year ago I didn't. So that's really new. But that's what you're talking about, being innovative, being driven by the market, seeing what's going there, and being flexible.
And again, fortune was playing in my cards because my nephew lives in Belgium and he studied beer making.
Of course. Of course.
And he did his master on my product on making a hop cider. So he had the expertise on which hop we should choose. And we were experimenting a lot with different hops. And we finally selected the US Cascade.
No kidding.
Because you will discover it. It's a floral.
Our meal has come here. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we'll just move
Can
it
you
back.
open us the hot cider, please?
Thank you.
Cider and cheese, good cheeses.
Yeah.
It's
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Nothing like it in the world. It's the perfect match.
It's a good appetite.
Yes. What would you say in Luxembourg to eat?
I would say good appetit.
Good appetit.
So it's a mixture of German and French.
You have a tasting room. Do you serve food, or is it primarily? There's no restaurant, right?
We serve food because we have also a cider room. So we have a tasting room and shop, and then we have in the master house we have a room for 24 people, and upstairs another room for 10 people where we can serve food. So we take traiteurs which come in and then serve the food, special food. It's really on special request of the people. We didn't want to have a restaurant. We wanted to do it when people are requesting it. So what we are doing on the farmhouse, we are offering for small groups, 24 people, to make a tour. That's the maximum
people.
for a tour, also for the capacity of the cinema. But if there are more people coming, then we split up the groups and we can, so one starts in the production, the other in the cinema, the third one are taking a look at the farm. And so we can have up to 140 people visiting the farm.
Coming through.
And that helps a lot. So this year we will have a menu card for visits, where you can really choose what you do, and included are also tour through the orchard. So there's a 5-kilometer tour. You can walk from the farm through the orchards.
Wow.
And people enjoy that. We had, for example, a group with dogs. A
group of dogs.
Yes, so
and that's not a problem going through your orchard.
No, we stay on the road. We stay on the road.
Okay.
We are not going through it. So the road goes. It's a road where there are no cars, and we go all around, and they can then take a look at that. And there are fences all around, so it's no problem.
Are you far out of town, or pretty close into a main town?
We are.
Or village or something.
It's a village.
A village where there's lodging there, so if people were staying, they could perhaps get some lodging.
There are neighbor small towns where you could stay.
Okay, yeah.
And yes, and then Trier is only 20 kilometers away, so that's
very easy.
In a half hour
yeah.
you are in Trier. No, 20 minutes you are in Trier, and you are in a capital, really.
The capital of Luxembourg.
No,
of that region.
That part of Germany.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's very ancient. It's a town which is 2,000 years old.
Wow.
In 30 minutes you are in Luxembourg town. So you have options.
And it's a free border,
yes.
like a very open border.
Yes, you walk over and nobody will ask you.
Thank goodness.
Oh, yeah.
We like those open borders.
Oh, yes.
That's the way. It's so much easier for business and commerce. Wow. This is delicious with the cider.
Yes.
The original I'm having, wow. It just really complements it.
I take 2 other glasses for the Erbachhofer. So that's an apple tree we love.
Next up, Carlo pours us a taste of their cider called Erbachhofer, which is a single variety cider. Erbachhofer is a small apple and is described as being firm, aromatic flesh, and a balance between sweetness, acidity, and just a hint of tannin that makes it one of the Saar Valley's most distinctive cider apples. Now back to this chat with Carlo Hein of Ramborn Cider Company.
That's the base cider as it comes from the fruit. Nothing changed on it.
Nothing changed, just a single variety.
Untouched.
This is a 2016 harvest here, and this is 7.5%.
Yes, very high sugar tanned. And there are tannins, there's acidity, and it's a still cider. And I'm really curious what you will say about that one. We are the first one which are doing a cider with this apple.
Well, the color is beautiful.
Yes.
This is it's like a very light, almost burgundy color in a way.
So it was not in an oak cask.
Not in an oak cask at all. Wow. So the presentation is really
and
pretty.
The apple flavor you get when you're smelling
it's like a little bit like almost like a pommeau, you know. It's just like it's so rich.
But it was not pasteurized. You think you are smelling a little bit of cooked apple there, but it was untouched.
Tannins coming through. Sweetness on my lips.
And also a certain bitterness.
Drawing down into the back of the mouth. Let me savor this a little bit and dive into it. Yeah, a dry cider, but like there's a little that residual sweetness, so it's not a full dry at all. You know, of course it's a 7.5%, so that says something. But it's not hot. I don't feel like it's a 7.5%
exactly
at all. I wouldn't know that. But it's a rich cider. There's a lot of complexity to it. And this is the type of cider that you want to like let it linger in your mouth a bit. When I sip, and probably other people are different, but I think I'm probably more in the norm. I like to have one sip, kind of let it hang a bit, and then sip again, really fill up my mouth, and let it, draw back, and then the complexity comes out a little bit better that way.
I learned that with my brother-in-law who loves beer, and when we discovering Lambic beer, with a lot of complexity in.
Yeah.
It's not the first sip where you decide if it's good or not.
No.
You have to take a sip.
Yeah.
So
let it linger.
Coming into it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this is silky, really silky cider, really delightful. I mean, the color alone is just stunning. It's clear. Are you racking or are you filtering your ciders?
We filter.
You do a little bit of filtering for bottle stability. Yeah. You know what? It reminds me of when I'm out in the orchard in the fall, and you get that nice, like you could see what the skin looks like. So it's that deep red mahogany, burgundy kind of skin. Perfect apple. You want to bite into it, and you're really tasting the skin, not just the inside of the apple, but the full apple. That's what's delightful about it.
Yes.
Because sometimes you could just go a little too sweet, and it's one-dimensional. But this is like biting into the full apple.
That's it.
On a warm day, the apple's really like juicing up. It's like,
What I find here, you really find the apple in the glass.
Yeah.
And that's fun to see as a cider maker, that you can make this transition from the apple into the cider glass. It's not easy to do.
No, it's not.
But this one is well done. It's really, we are so happy with it of doing so. But on customer side, we have also to admit that this is not something which the common customer will like. So it's more the cider lovers, the people who enjoy ciders, which have already tasted a lot of ciders. All of them, they like it.
They love it, yeah, I can't imagine.
Whereas the other one, you see it when the customers are coming, and in Luxembourg we have a lot of new customers, beginners.
A new palate, open palate.
They are going for the original and the hop.
Yeah.
Perry, of course, too.
Right.
And then come the other ones. But we are taking them. We are tastings
Yeah.
inviting them back,
Yeah.
having dinner with them together.
Nice.
And we take them to the...
Yeah, because you expect that. If you're new to cider, you expect some sweet, classic kind of apple. It just makes sense. It's been like that since the beginning when cider really started hitting here in the States. The same thing. That's what people want. They get almost disappointed if they don't have that.
Yes.
If they're a new cider drinker. And you don't want to disappoint them.
But interesting with our original compared to US ciders, it's not sweet.
No.
So when we went to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin had a history with Luxembourg because there are as many Luxembourgers living in Wisconsin than in Luxembourg, because 150 years ago
Wow.
we had some poverty problems in Luxembourg, and so they went to the US. And I guess there were some families going to the Wisconsin and the other one followed. So everybody, a lot of them went there. And when you're, for example, I was looking baseball at Milwaukee.
Yes.
And there are 4 names which are Hall of Fame, and one was called Molitor, and more Luxembourgish you cannot find. And I was Googling. Of course, this guy came from Luxembourg, and the funny part of it, he comes from a village called Apple Village.
Ooh.
That's so funny. And he's still famous. He's, I think, today coach in one of the big clubs.
Wow, Apple Village. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? It's a small world.
It's very
when it comes
small
down to it. Unified by the apple.
Yes.
Or palms in general, because I do not want to leave the pears out of it at all, because they're a really key piece.
How we doing?
Everything's great.
Perfect.
All right, enjoy. I'll be back in a minute.
Thank you, Isan.
In Born, the village of Born was in the Second World War, the south front of the Battle of the Bulge. And you know that Ernst Hemingway was reporter in the US Army. So he stayed at 6 kilometers from our village in a farm, and he drank cider over there and apple schnapps. And there's a story about him, but I will not record it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It sounds like a good one, though.
So what he did, as fronts were going from one side to the other, from one day to another, he was drinking the cider bottle, and he was peeing in it, and he was standing it back, so that he was hoping that a German would drink it. That was his...
Well, in times of war, people do really crazy things.
Oh, it was crazy.
To justify...
It was the bloodiest battle in the Second World War, the Battle of the Bulge.
Yes, it was, yeah.
It was terrible, and the cider farm got a hit from a grenade, and we have the photo of it.
Wow.
And in the village of Born, I think 6 or 7 houses were destroyed.
Decimated,
Also,
yeah.
my family home was destroyed.
Wow.
And but then came the Marshall Plan, and it was perfectly well. So everything was reconstructed.
Yeah.
And
Rose up again.
Yes, and everybody moved on.
Yeah.
And if you imagine that, 50 years after that war, the borders opened without any more people controlling
The
people
border.
going from one side to the other. No, today anybody thinks about that war anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It takes 1-2 generations. It's always the same.
It does, it does. You know, I guess sometimes there's a silver lining in even the worst things, or at least it's always best to look for the silver lining and hope that you find it. And having spent time in that part of the world myself, it's amazing the impact of those wars. It's such a lingering impact.
Yeah, you think twice when you're
It's
talking
humbling.
about yes.
Yeah, sobering. Yeah. It sure gives me an appreciation for what we're drinking.
Yes.
And you think about these apple trees and pear trees that have been standing there for so long.
I think we should now go to the film to give us the opportunity.
Sure, absolutely. During the cider dinner, Carlo and I did watch the complete film that anyone would be able to see if they had a tour at Ramborn Cider Company in Luxembourg. What you're missing is some of the cinematography, and I want to say it was spectacular. You get to see the beautiful orchards and get a sense of how they actually renovated, as Carlo would say, the landscape, the trees themselves, and they are amazing. They're big trees, and they have ancient trees there, the pear trees, 350 years old. So it is quite worth your visit to Ramborn Cider Company, just alone for the film, not to mention the ciders and meeting the people themselves. So let's go back to this main program and hear the language of Luxembourg and a little bit of the film itself. Large trees that we're looking at out in the apples
Today
and blossom.
we work with more than 100 farmers to revive, maintain and improve traditional orchards, paying a fair price for their fine apples. Our cider uses traditional apple varieties grown exclusively in traditional orchards of what's known as standard trees. These orchards are a vital source of biodiversity, providing home to many species of insects and other animals. They are Europe's rainforests in need of protection.
Wow, so those are rows of pear trees. 2 rows next to each other, giant
The
pear
idea
trees.
to make a Luxembourgish cider came up when 3 old friends were having a drink. While enjoying a summer holiday in the UK and tasting local ciders, they started sharing stories of their parents and grandparents using local apples to produce their very own cider.
Ich kann mich erinnern, es war sonst mittags mit dem gegrillt, im rief den Gilles und dann gesagt, hast keine Lust mehr nach Schottland zu fliegen.
Is that
Das ist
Luxembourg?
überraschend, komm, und du musst mittags aus der Verlass gegangen.
They're talking about the flight there and
3 Minuten Zeit für mich Frau zu überzeugen.
the plan, trying to convince the wife that they could go to this trip. And these 3 guys are standing next to this truck that is part of the label. And in the background there's these steel tanks, famous steel tanks, where they're making the cider. All holding a cheap glass of cider. Because Carlo is saying, I've always loved cider.
Aber die Moin hat mir überhaupt nicht geschmeckt. Es ist einfach gesagt, hey, was ist das dort? Das wäre nicht gut.
The idea was born to make their own cider in Luxembourg using this untapped source of exceptional apples. The
Shaking
name
the trees
originates from
with a
Rambo,
stick.
the most common variety of apple in the nearby orchards,
There's a truck.
and Born, the cider's home village.
The first 2 years.
In our first year, we produced the first 2,000 bottles of Ramborn cider from the October 2013 harvest.
What a beautiful truck.
These 2,000 bottles were enjoyed by the local community, and the project developed further until in 2014, when the Ramborn Cider Company was founded. That brings us up to the founding of Ramborn, and our focus on reviving, maintaining, and replanting traditional orchards of standard trees. Here's to keeping that tradition alive. Planting new trees, sharing our cider for generations to come.
Ramborn Cider Company. What a nice presentation. Is this in different languages at the
Yes.
theater?
So as we are in Luxembourg, we need to have different. So tomorrow there will be the recording of that film in French and German, and it's already in Luxembourgish and English, of course. The English ADK, who works in our company,
Right.
did itself. The Luxembourgish one was made by a friend of mine who is a very famous actor in Luxembourg, and the French and the German one will also be done by a woman which is a quite known actor.
Perfect.
And
Wow.
we just want to involve everybody, and they are doing it for free.
Free.
They are
The
just
excitement of
enjoying
it.
the excitement of the project.
Because you're reviving a tradition, you're getting the glory behind, this fruit tree that's been growing in the country. I mean, what kind of pride there is, you could feel it. Yeah.
So there's a project going on in Luxembourg for nation building, and so we were also asked to be part of that, so that we
Nation building in what respect?
Nation building, and how do you communicate the values of the nation to the neighbor countries, to the world?
Oh.
So which brand do you want to give Luxembourg? Is it a financial center?
Right. Which is well known for.
Or tax haven?
Right.
No.
Or cider.
Or cider?
Yeah.
Or wine country?
Right.
Or we have so much different things to offer, and
Yeah.
a melting pot of European communities. So there's lots going on, and
Yeah.
but we are happy to be part of that.
If you go to the show notes for this here episode 129, you'll get to see some photos from this here dinner with Carlo Hein of Ramborn Cider Company. And also a photo of Asa, our server, who was so kind throughout this chat. The Marriott, they really came through in giving us a room away where we could do this recording. So that was super kind of them. And a couple other notes of interest about this cider company. One is I want to say that the orchard manager is a woman by the name of Chantel Hels, and she organizes the harvest. She's a key person. She kind of says when they are going to go out there and pick. I thought that was kind of neat that she's doing that. There's a lot of people that are part of this team, including 80K. He was on episode 94. That was titled Discovering Luxembourg with Ramborn Cider Company. You know, they just reached out to me early on and said they'd like to be part of the Cider Going Up campaign. That is something that I do via the Patreon page, which helps me as a content provider keep on producing this podcast. So I feel really grateful to them for doing that. And 80 did a nice job of presenting Ramborn Cider Company. A couple other notes. Where can you get this cider? Well, you can get it in Wisconsin, where we have found out now that there are quite a few folks from Luxembourg. That is really fascinating, isn't it? Who knew that? And also that mistletoe, that lovely little thing that we like to hang over our head so we could maybe get a kiss during the holiday season. Well, it's an invasive species in Luxembourg, and it really goes after the apple trees, especially the old apple trees. So that was kind of an interesting little note that I had no idea of. I might look at mistletoe a little bit differently now. Certainly put it in my fireplace instead of just kind of throwing it out in the compost afterwards. I wouldn't throw it in the compost anyways because it probably has some stuff on it that I wouldn't want to have in my compost. But who knew? Mistletoe, right? So again, go to the show notes for this episode 129. And the patrons of Cider Chat are going to get an extended version of this chat. We continued recording for about another hour, and it is filled with a lot more info that I think folks will find really fascinating from both a business perspective and a little bit on their cellaring. It was, at that point we had drank a bit of cider and we're getting in the groove. So I always like to send something off special for the patrons of Cider Chat, and that will be going to you. And you could join too for as little as $1 a month. Again, thank you to Carlo Hein for dinner, good company, and to Ramborn Cider Company. A big tip of the glass to you all. If you are still sitting on the fence wondering, should I go to Normandy, France with Ria and some really amazing people to drink cider and poré and calvados and pommeau and feast upon the amazing food there and saunter around the streets, visit Paris, go to the Mont Saint-Michel, have croissants in the morning and amazing cheeses throughout the day, be at our leisure, getting up easy, going to bed whenever you want to, perhaps late, maybe early, it's all good, and taking cider home. If you're still sitting on the fence, well, let me encourage you to sign up now for the Totally Cider Tour. We're heading out in September. It is going to be closing, the reservation's going to be closing on May 31st. And at that point, it will be waiting list only. And this is just too good to be true. I mean, I was talking to people out in Michigan. They were looking at it and saying, like, God, this is a good deal. I wish I could go. In fact, I talked to a lot of cider makers who would like to go. And truthfully, actually, there are no commercial cider makers signed up for this trip. So on one hand, it's like, wow, I mean, that's cool because that's really my goal is to get cider, folks who aren't commercial. On the other hand, it's like, wow, no commercial cider makers taking advantage of making contact with some amazing makers. So I don't know, maybe that's something to kind of spur you on if you're commercial. But wherever you are, and if you want to kind of come along, I would sure appreciate your company if you like cider and like having a good time. This is going to be a trip of a lifetime. Just go to ciderchat.com and the Totally Cider page. Thanks for coming along with me. Once again, Ciderville, you are the best. I'm going to open up this little bottle of Calvados here and take a little swig. Oh, we got, now that's it. Well, once again, this is Real Wind Caller signing off for now. Looking forward to seeing you in Ciderville.
Going up, going up, going up.
Yeehaw!